So now that the recording is started, so today we are planning on pulling up the working draft of our strategic plan and finally kind of digging a little bit deeper into really what we want to accomplish moving forward, setting some goals, setting some structure to the group and our ideas and things like that. So Nicole was the one who really put that together. So Nicole, I don't know, do you want to share your screen and kind of start going through that?
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to make sure that I take a lot of notes about what we're talking about today. So if I'm like looking down or to the side, it's just because I'm typing away. So,
Okay. So hopefully you guys can see that.
Yes, ma'am.
So we put some thought into taking all of the ideas, suggestions, thoughts about where we should go, our experiences from this last year, and put together a strategic plan for the current fiscal year 2026 that started in July. Um, because somebody suggested it would be really helpful to have like clarity around who are we and what are we doing? What's our purpose? So this is the mission statement. And so Carrie did send this out in advance if anyone had a chance to look at it. I apologize. This was kind of like we got this finalized yesterday, so we didn't give a lot of time to look at it. So we're kind of like having everybody absorb it in the moment, which I know isn't ideal for everyone. But what we're really looking for is like questions, thoughts, comments, suggestions, concerns, things like that. So the mission is pretty straightforward: to foster an inclusive and affirming environment for LGBTQ plus Red Crossers in the communities we serve by promoting visibility, education, advocacy, and engagement across our region. And so I think um, I will pause and do circle style stuff, but if you have a thought or a comment, like either raise your hand or just jump in. Um, Please don't feel free to do that. Please feel free to just jump in. So these are the 5 goals that came out of all of our discussions. The first one is to provide opportunities for the Red Cross to engage with LGBTQ plus community members in our region by participating in various Pride events, which we started doing this past year. And I think it was very successful. And I actually think we were like a big percentage of the total number of Pride events for the Red Cross in general across the nation. So yay us. And so
Yay.
we want to keep that going. And I think now we have a chance to look at most of our events were targeted in June, just because that's when a lot of the Pride months are, because Pride events are because of Pride Month. But we know now that we have some time to really think that there's a lot of other things we can be involved in. So we can really take a much bigger view of where we should be, what spaces we should be in, and where we should be networking with people. So that's one of our goals, is to really identify those opportunities. We want to establish relationships with advocacy and community groups to both help share opportunities so that Red Crossers can get more involved with other groups, and also to help us be able to share with other groups what the Red Cross can offer for the local community in our region. So it's kind of a two-way street. We want to provide educational opportunities for both ourselves. Like the last meeting, we had the example of looking at the intersectionality between being queer and being a person of faith, and how some of us, myself particularly, had some biases there that probably need to be overcome, and how some discussion and some perspectives on that could actually be really fascinating and help us learn a little bit more about like people's experience in general, but also about some of the communities that we're serving as the Red Cross. So one of our goals is to identify those opportunities that where we can both provide education for ourselves. And also then we've talked with Kurt about the potential to be able to provide an educational opportunity for the community and be able to do more things that are helping the community understand more about us and the challenges and the nuances and everything like that. So that's also one of our goals. One of our fundamental goals is really just to have safe places to discuss the needs of our team members, including we want a place where people can bring up internal issues that maybe need to be addressed within our spaces here, our Red Cross spaces here. If there's fears and anxieties, or if there's suggestions for improvement, we want to be a place where those topics can be brought up and can be discussed and possibly even acted on. And we want to help identify and support opportunities to be able to recruit more LGBTQ plus volunteers, staff members, community partners, financial supporters, and blood donors. So we want to be able to help the organization show a very welcoming and inclusive space where people would want to be involved. So those are the 5 goals that we came up with. I want to give everybody just kind of a moment to think about them. Carrie, I don't know if you want to add anything or if there's any reflections on this, because I think that what my ask is going to be for everyone is, do you feel these are appropriate and achievable goals for us? And if you have any thoughts, comments, concerns, or if it's like, looks good, I'm in to help make this happen. So I want to give everybody
Nicole,
kind of a moment. Sorry, go
Nicole,
ahead.
yeah, it's Joanne. I really like all of these. I think they're great. Uh, but as a strategic plan would go, we would need to identify when do we plan on accomplishing these goals, and is it the whole committee that's responsible, or is it a specific few people, or those are the types of things that are pretty typical in a strategic plan?
Love it. So we do have more on that. So before I move on, is there any other uh, comments? Oh, actually, you know, I'm just going to move on. So we did kind of come up with some ideas about trying to find where the whole list is about like roles and responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And so so we came up with, Carrie and I are both the co-chairs as well as serving as the primary liaisons for our respective chapters. And then Joanne and Lynn, we have you guys as the chapter liaisons for the Southern Tier, since you're doing a lot of the coordination and making sure that everything happens there. So we've formalized in writing, and these can change, but this was just our proposal of these roles. And then one of the, I don't know where it is now. We have an idea to have, maybe it's this. So we'll have the open meetings, then we'll have the leadership planning meetings. And this is the meetings that we had around the budgeting, where Carrie and I, Lynn, Joanne, we were involved in putting together our budget for all the events we wanted to go to, putting together you know, what our goals were going to be for these events, who was going to be able to go to what. So we came up with the name, let's call these leadership planning meetings, where we're focusing on logistics and planning and that kind of stuff, and what we're going to then bring back to the bigger team. And then to address your point about who's going to actually do the work, our idea is, this idea was proposed by others actually, to have subcommittees where we can focus a group around either a specific event or a specific goal, or And I guess we have this to be developed because we need more structure around this and how we want to see this work. And if we define them around the goals, if we define them around specific activities, if we define them loosely, if we define them by chapter, like some of this I think we'll have to decide on. And so ideas or suggestions based on others' experience would be extremely helpful. But does that help give a little bit more structure to your question?
Yes, absolutely. It's a great idea. And I think moving forward, if we have it broken down like this, then no one person is feeling like they're responsible for everything. I mean, I know as the leads of this, the chairs of this committee, that kind of falls to you and Carrie, but you're guiding other people to do certain things. And I think that's the perfect way to do it.
Yeah, thank you. That's our hope, is that like we could, and then this way too, if there's something that somebody's like really excited about, really passionate about, they could take the lead on it.
Sure.
And so, because I think there's a lot we can do. We just need to be able to support each other in doing it. I think the challenge is getting this organized. Like it's the idea is great and as a concept it's fantastic, but how we actually translate it into practice is going to be the challenge. Sorry, Carrie.
No, you're okay. I actually was just about to address that because I think the other part of Joanne's question was kind of the time frame, and I wonder if maybe isolating 2 or 3 of the goals instead of all 5 and kind of picking those as things we want to really, that would be accomplishments that we can make within a year, and then identifying maybe the others as 2 or 3 or 5 years or whatever, and then
Exactly.
looking at those that can be done realistically in like this fiscal year, and then kind of really focusing on those and getting subcommittees developed, like getting subcommittees together for those. I wonder if that, I don't know what people's thoughts on that are.
Personally, I'm waiting for someone else to speak up, but my mouth won't shut up, so I'm going. I think what we need to do is to make sure that, no one is feeling overwhelmed because then we'll lose people. So if we can continue this on and have like 2 or 3 of those goals that we can maybe accomplish in a year's time and say by next year, the plan is to achieve X, Y, and Z or whatever it is, and then uh, continue working with those additional goals over the next 2 to 3 years. And then in a year's time, we can reevaluate and see where we're at with this plan, and then make a determination whether now we can move something else up forward more or have to extend it out to 4 years. Because I'm in this for the long haul, so.
Danielle, would you mind elaborating more what you mean about the SMART goals and that? Because that's not a term I'm super familiar with.
Oh, sure, yeah. So like, maybe it comes from cycling and group fitness, but SMART goals are specific, measurable, attainable. Oh man, I don't remember what that.
Relevant.
I know T is a time. What's the R?
Relevant. It's relevant.
There you go. So Joanne was on the same track as that, is like being able to say, these specific goals and a timeline for each of them, and are they achievable, which Nicole touched on, attainable. So yeah, and I do think the formation of subcommittees is a great idea, especially for people, just because we're kind of like all swamped on all the things that we do. So at least then if there's something in particular that resonates with somebody, they can definitely be included on that. Like me, for instance, love love the parade, will totally be there, do anything for you for that event. But when it comes to like other events, I'm just kind of strapped for time, especially now becoming disaster trained and maybe having to provide that service for some of my clients in addition to fundraising is a little crazy. But yeah, I mean, I'm in it for the long haul too, though, and anything that you guys need and suggestions and stuff. You might, yeah, just consider some of these goals and like what exactly,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe there's particular events that you want to go to or the ones that you found successful last time. Because I know you said the one, was it down in
This is
Dansville? Somewhere you said it was really good and you had a really good conversations with people. So maybe like outlining some of the events that you want to go to, and then deciding if people want to jump on those or not. I don't know how are you recruit? I guess my question is, how are you recruiting for them already? Are you guys just kind of talking about who wants to go to certain ones?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the recruitment is where we need assistance because I think it's tough to get people to just like working with our
Yeah.
volunteers. Sometimes it's tough to get volunteers who feel confident enough to go out and represent the Red Cross in their community
Yeah.
anyway. And then choosing from kind of a smaller pool of people who are specifically interested in this, our like work in our committee. So it kind of limits people who feel like they have the expertise to do that. So
Maybe then, okay, so if people are saying that they don't feel comfortable doing that, like maybe one of these sessions is like is a training session or like a mock conversation about tabling, right?
yeah, and we did do some of that. Nicole
Okay.
basically did that, I would say. I think it's more just because we're looking at these like events that are in certain areas. I don't know. There's definitely work to be done there. But it sounds like from what we're all saying so far that one of the goals we should really focus on is this community event thing. And Nicole, if you could go back up to those goals, I almost wonder if how people feel about like 1 and 2 and if those should kind of be one or if they should be distinctly separate.
Yeah, they do go hand in hand.
One thing I was thinking about, and I've never written like a strategic plan, so I don't know how specific you need, but maybe we could informally come up with particular connections or community groups that we were interested in. So like I was thinking of Evergreen, and one of the reasons might be as like a HIV/AIDS organizer service provider in Western New York, that might be a good place to form a connection, especially with the tabling element, because I know Nicole and I forget who else brought up that one of the main like sort of talking points that people would bring up is, well, I'm on PrEP. Why won't you let me donate? It's safe. This is just you reintroducing this kind of bigoted policy under a new guise. And I think if we could form a partnership with Evergreen, I don't know anything about them, so maybe they're prickly, maybe they're great, I don't know. But like that might be a good place to introduce if the main supplier or like advocacy group for PrEP also includes that as, look, while you're on this is protecting you in sexual health, but that doesn't mean you can then donate blood. And I think hearing it from them at the source might help taking some of the pressure off of us. So I don't think we have to like write that into the plan itself, but just having those specific kind of connections in mind might be useful.
Like a prospect list, community partner list.
Yeah.
Check off list. And then the same thing, honestly, for Nicole, like if you wanted to do, like when we do the biomed tours, we have a group of people that all do the tours for John Street. I wouldn't say it's foolproof because I end up signing up for a lot of them, but we have a Teams group with a grid, an Excel file that just says like, these are the things that are coming. Will you sign up for one of them or whatever? And we kind of work amongst ourselves to sign up for the event. So I think if you knew of upcoming events for next year, or if you find really great ones, coming up in all the markets, you could kind of put it in there and we could all just like take a look at it, see if it fits in our availability and maybe sign up.
Okay.
Or we could all search our markets and see if things are coming up and add to that list and decide as a group if they're like, valuable to attend or not too.
It sounds like maybe we need to be a little more active. We do have a Teams group set up. I'll admit Nicole set that all up, and just I personally have never used a Teams group for anything, so I just sort of ignored it. So I do think that actually, Nicole, that you had a good instinct there, and that we should utilize that more and add more people and get more stuff on there, because it's a combination of both of those things, Danielle. One, we need help with people identifying what's coming up, like events that we can participate in. And then also we need a more effective way for people to like sign up to assist if they're interested. Because as of right now, we've just been sort of putting things on the Western New York event calendar and spreading the word to volunteer services and like spreading the word to people who are in the resource group. But if we can more like identify people who are willing to help, and of course when you can, I mean, there's no like time commitment there, but yeah, I think that would be helpful. I think that's a really good suggestion.
So if I tie these together, thank you for bringing up the SMART, because I think that that's critical. I think that when we look at these goals, we need to set the measurable piece. So like maybe provide opportunities to engage. Maybe to Kurt's suggestion, we actually set a goal of like make it really attainable and say like at least 3 groups per chapter that we want to engage with in this fiscal year, that we want to reach out to and really try to develop some sort of collaboration with. And so that might be like for number 1, it's like really something really attainable. So it's just 3. And if we do more, great. But like we feel 3 is attainable, it shouldn't be overwhelming. And I'm just putting that out there. And maybe like for events, how many did we do in total? Was it 8?
I think it was 8.
So maybe we say like we want to do 10. We were able to do 8 and we didn't even have a full year to plan. So maybe we say for this year, we know we can do 8, let's try to do 10.
Do you mean like 10 across the entire fiscal year?
Yeah, across the region.
Okay. Okay.
And then if we do more, great. Like it's one of those where like 10 is our goal. If we do more, great. If we do less, we just evaluate why. Did something like we weren't able to get volunteers? What was our challenge? Why do we need to
Exactly.
evaluate? And then I'm thinking like educational opportunities. Maybe we say like we want to have, I'm totally making this up. I'm going to stick with 3. We want to have 3 educational events this year. And maybe we decide like in person versus virtual, but we want to plan for 3 events at least. And then for the other ones, maybe it's like we know we at least have once a quarter. I don't know why I'm stuck on like 3 and 4, but I feel like those are attainable. Maybe like once a quarter we have a meeting that's just dedicated, or at least part of a meeting that's dedicated to just internal feedback, things that people want to bring up that's specifically geared towards that. And then maybe for 5, we have a goal of having at least 2 meetings directly with volunteer services to have discussions about what we can do together. And maybe we have a goal of, maybe we split this up into sub goals, and we have a goal of 1 partnered pride drive. So not a Red Cross sponsored, but a partnered pride drive, 1 partnered pride drive per region in the fiscal year. And that's our goal.
My only
And
concern
that way
here is that
these are more measurable.
I wonder if maybe some of those though could be turned into longer term goals instead of the 1 year, because it's a little overwhelming. Like I think part of it's because you just all set it in a list, so it becomes
Yeah. So
overwhelming,
it's like,
but
oh my gosh, we have to do all that. But yeah,
it's kind of a lot for like 1 year. So maybe some of those things can be measurable. Like we want to do 10 events across the entire fiscal year. We want to do 3 educational events across the entire fiscal year. And then we maybe pick like one other, and then the rest we sort of like keep in mind, but don't necessarily set like a fixed goal for this fiscal year. I don't want to like be under ambitious. I don't know what people think.
I agree with that. I think this is Lynn. I don't know if you can even hear me. My voice is terrible right now.
we can hear you.
I think if you have too much, first of all, if you have too much that people need to focus on, then you can't focus on anything. I think the first 2 goals would be great for like this first year. Let's keep it at just that for this year. This year, you said we had 8 Pride events, and if we shoot for 10 Pride events this year, that's a go. That's a good thing if we do that. The
That's
other thing that I
doable.
would mention is
Yeah.
a lot of times when I see strategic plans, there's a goal, there's a strategy that is how do you meet that goal? And it's done like almost um in a chart, a goal, a strategy, who does it, who's responsible for it, and what is the timeline. So the format of it is a little, for me anyway, a little easier to focus on if it's separated out in these boxes. I don't know if that makes sense to you. I know it just makes it easier to kind of follow it along. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. We kind of map out. So here's our goal. All right. So we'll use 10 events because I think we all agree that if we were able to do 8, 10 events over the entire fiscal year, over the 3 chapters is doable. So if we say that's our goal, then our next subline would be who's responsible for that? How are we going to go about doing that? How are we breaking that work down? What's our timelines looking like? That we need to actually map that out.
Yeah, sounds great. I mean, you got it going on, Nicole.
So I guess the question is then kind of what are maybe 1 or 2 other goals that we want to really focus on for this year. And like what jumps out at people on this list as being the most important for immediate focus.
I mean, I'm gonna I'm gonna share my opinion. I think the developing the collaborations with the partnerships and Kurt's idea about working with the um, service providers and even I could even see having like a facts about blood donation and prep handout that these groups could even have available that articulate um, that you can't, while you're taking prep, you can't donate, but you can donate if it's been 3 months since your last dose, and like giving the whole background about why. So I think that having like I'm thinking in Rochester, I'd like to have a goal of 3 connections in the local area this fiscal year that we could do something like that with, where it's more than just a say get to know each other, but actually have some sort of collaboration where we're working with them to try to offer something to their group and their audiences, their networks, and vice versa, that we're helping bring their mission into our focus too. And I think 3 for the entire fiscal year for the Rochester chapter is doable, but that's also something that I'm willing to like spearhead in Rochester and support in the other regions too. I just know Rochester better. So that's my opinion on another goal that I think is attainable and important.
Yeah, and I'm here. So this is Brian. I'm here. I mean, for Rochester too, I can, you know, incorporate that goal into my, you know, my duties and get connections going and establish some relationships too.
Yeah, I can definitely see this being a subcommittee of people, either like by chapter or just all together, people who are actively focused on this in particular. And I love the idea of recruiting specifically for new committee members, or pulling, you know, putting out the word that we are looking for volunteers specifically for this kind of work, even if they're not necessarily otherwise involved in the Red Cross. I don't see why that would be a problem, especially if they're actively associated with one of the other, you know, one of these community partners, and they're looking to build that bridge. I mean, that seems perfect. Also, to throw in my 2 cents, I think 3 groups for Buffalo is realistic too. I guess we would just need input on for the southern tier, just because I know it's Rochester and Buffalo are a little more condensed, a little more cosmopolitan, and the southern tier is a little more spread out and rural. So I guess it just depends on if it feels attainable to identify 3 groups and make connections with them in that area specifically.
I
we've got-
think so.
Go ahead, Joanne.
No, I
Don't
was,
we
I
have at
just
least
saying,
2 groups that I can think of that we can connect
yeah,
with?
I don't think it's a problem. I think 3 contacts would be good for here as well.
So maybe this is our first attempt at a subcommittee where we could put together a partner communication subcommittee that can work on assigning who's gonna get the who's gonna decide like which in each region they're comfortable reaching out to, like who's gonna be doing the actual communication. We can share the messaging so that way we're consistent, even if it's different types of groups that we're reaching out to, we can be consistent in our messaging. So maybe this is our first subcommittee, and we can learn as we go how it works. And we've all had experience on various subcommittees, so I think we'll be able to bring a lot of knowledge and experience there, and it'll just be us forming a new one.
Right behind you.
I think my other proposed goal for this fiscal year would be the the pride drives. And I don't know what's realistic, but I know that it's been a goal for a lot of groups. I think if we're already working on communication strategies with other groups, it allows us to at least have those conversations. So I don't want to be overly ambitious. Like, um, I think one this fiscal year in Rochester would be exciting since we haven't had one at all. Um, but I know that there's others like Wendy is willing to work on that. I know there's others who aren't here today who would be able to help spearhead that too. So I don't think that that's overly that's going to be overly overwhelming. And I think for us, like I've said before, I don't want our group to be a marketing arm for biomed in this area, but I do think that we are positioned to be able to facilitate those connections and then be able to bring those opportunities to the community partners, and then kind of hand it over to the biomed people who are appropriate to make that happen. So any thoughts on that?
Brian may be able to speak more on this, but one thing we have to keep in mind and like strategize around is that one thing I encountered was an interest in hosting blood drives, but then like, oh, can you guys just like, I think I said these exact words to Nicole. People are like, oh, can we just set up next week? And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so much more complicated than that. You know,
Yeah.
so I think, unfortunately, whereas if we're to do a hands-only CPR class, it's a little more straightforward. I think one roadblock that we have to kind of anticipate and be direct about is just that the blood drive takes time. It takes a lot of, you already have to have some interest from the community. You have to have the correct space. So, you know, I think, I don't know if someone can speak more on that, but I think that's just something we have to be aware of with this goal.
I agree, Carrie. There's a lot that has to go into getting a blood drive situated and scheduled. It's not just a, oh, sure, we'll do one because you want to. You're right. There's all these criteria that must be met. And that has to be up front when you're talking to groups, saying that, you know, perhaps a blood drive might be great for you guys. I'll put you in contact with the person that is in this area dealing with those, and they can review all of the necessities that you need. We could be a conduit, if you will, to getting that information there, but not actually doing it ourselves.
Yeah, and if anyone has any interest on scheduling a blood drive or any questions on the process, I mean, I could be the direct contact for that. If someone reaches out or someone wants to inquire about, you know, getting a blood drive on, you know, I could just be the main point person for that. If that
For the
helps.
whole region,
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, if they want to schedule a blood
Brian,
drive,
for the whole
if
region,
they,
you're willing to like kind of be the conduit of, okay.
well, I mean, because I could just give them a preliminary talk and then I'll pass it on to Sheila and Nancy down in Buffalo, Binghamton. If it's in Rochester, I can, you know, book the drive for them. But if they have questions, you know, I can get them into their touch with the right person. But I'm just saying, like, just to go through me first when it comes to blood drives, just be that person. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's awesome.
Blood drive ambassador. How about that?
Pride Drive ambassador.
Pride drive ambassador. Yeah.
There
I
you
like that.
go.
There it is.
Add it to your signature line.
That's right.
So I think that's a good goal to have. And I think it balances well with the other goals that are a little more holistic. I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we also want to provide a lot of internal support. But I think that's a little, I don't know. I don't know if maybe people have tools to quantify internal support. In my mind, it feels a little more nebulous and maybe something that we can kind of work on more long term. I don't know if anybody has thoughts on that, but.
I wonder if this year for that, it should be more of our goal should be more of fact finding, like what maybe talking to people, like instead of having a set activity goal, we more have a set information gathering goal where we try to have some conversations internally about how people actually feel. Are they aware of, like, maybe measure get some at least basic understanding of awareness of our group that it exists, um, some basic understanding about how people feel about their work environment and if this would be a useful tool to them. Maybe that's what we kind of try to do, is get a sense of like, how could this be, what do people need, what is missing. Maybe like we shouldn't try to solve a problem when we don't know what the problem is. Maybe there is something that people are looking for and we just have to find it first before we set a realistic goal to try to solve it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. But I think we have been out and about doing tabling for quite some time. And so we pretty much know the kinds of questions people are looking for answers to. And like the prep question, why can't I give it when I'm on prep? Because it can give a false negative when you're on prep, and we don't want to take chances. So we have to wait those 3 months. So you're not getting a false negative. And I mean, it's just,
I'm thinking more
I think,
internally. I'm thinking more like what do our Western New York Red Crossers um need from a for like a for us to function as like an employee resource group for the
okay,
Red
how
Cross.
about if we offer like a tutorial, kind of like you did for us, but maybe go in a little bit more in depth of LGBTQ, and some people have no idea. They know there's a group of people with those tendencies, and that's what they call them. It's a tendency. Well, no, it's a lifestyle, and it's what's normal. And so I think right now we just need to maybe offer them some training. I see Lynn's hand up.
Um, if you're Wendy, I mean, Natalie, if you're talking about internal, I don't want to call it recruitment, because these are people who are already Red Crossers that we want them to know this group exists. Okay. So one way maybe might be some kind of I know once a month we have a Southern Tier staff meeting. So Zachariah I'm sure, would be happy to say, we have this group, and we would like you to be able to, if you need information, contact, I don't know, Carrie or Lynn or Joanne or whoever. And I don't know, maybe, Ken would be willing to do the same thing at his staff meetings, and Nick at his. So then that goes mostly to the staff meetings, goes to the leads, and then the leads might be responsible for kind of filtering it down to their volunteers. The other thing is I don't know how this would work, but can something be put on Volunteer Connection? Even though I know not everybody looks at Volunteer Connection all the time, but maybe something on Volunteer Connection. I would hesitate to say send an email, because we get staff and volunteers all get so many emails, and a lot of the volunteers, I can tell you from my own experience, they don't even look at their emails. So I'm not sure how else you could spread the word that this committee exists, and we want you to be a part of this committee in one way or another, whether it's to go help us find sponsors or partners, whether it's to work at a blood drive, whether it's to take part in a pride event, whatever it might be. But I don't, you questioned before about volunteer services. Um, Putting it, I mean, somebody put that in the chat. I don't think it, I don't think the description and the recruitment can come from volunteer services. I think it might have to come from, I don't know, Kathleen, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it might have to come from operations. I'm not sure where that comes from. Those are my thoughts. Oh, Kathleen's not here anymore. I don't see her. Okay.
Well, thank you, Lynn. That's super helpful. That's very helpful. Wendy, you have your hand up too.
I apologize. I was on a call, so I'm kind of coming to the game late, but I'll just share a few quick thoughts that have popped into my head as I've been listening. One, we cover a pretty good area, all of our team. So what if, I mean, it doesn't cover all Red Crossers in Western New York, but what if we could ask to just have like 5 minutes to speak? The donor recruitment meeting teams have a meeting each week. they have that if you ask the district managers, they probably give us 5 minutes to talk. And then there's always the collections, which I know Carrie has went to, the Buffalo. So if we could get to the different collections meetings, and then when the our humanitarian partners meet, I believe they have like the chapter staff meeting. I can't remember what it's called. But maybe if we could just kind of focus on some of those meetings, and then the volunteer events, obviously, where there's gatherings where we're bringing volunteers in too. But maybe just at least start that way. If we could, kind of find out when those meetings are and do a little presentation that we could each all take and share. So when we wouldn't, have to reinvent the wheel, just go, or even if it's two of us, it could be more than one person. It would be great. And just say, here's what we are, here's what we do. And then, we talk a lot about outside of the Red Cross. So this may be corny, so forgive me, but I think we should really talk to our Red Crossers, our volunteers and staff, and say, you know what, you may notice that we do a lot of outreach because we are trying to show our pride, but we want to let you know, and this was the phrase they came up with, pride inside. We have pride inside of the American Red Cross. And for our staff and our volunteers, we want you to know that we are a resource for you. It isn't just about outreach. So that's my thoughts.
I love that. Pride inside.
I want that shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, there's a term that we learned called in reach.
Mm-hmm.
So when a group is trying to do like the counterpart to outreach is in reach, working internally to get your message across.
When I work
But
with churches, we would use that phrase because they do outreach, but we'd always say, what are you doing is in reach.
Yep. That's got to be a slogan. Pride inside. I agree. I want the shirt too.
Maybe we get shirts that say Western New York Pride Resource Group, Pride Inside. I don't know, but I just think, sometimes I'll just give this example. And I don't want to say anything too specific because I don't want to give anyone away, but I've talked to staff members, maybe when I've been handing out pins or something like that. And, some people are really comfortable saying, out loud, if they'd like a pin or if they'd like this or what their pronouns are, but not everybody is either. So I think especially for those folks, we really just need to be telling them that we are here for them too. And we should plan accordingly to be there for them too. So again, apologies for being late.
Oh, no worries. So maybe I'm thinking as I'm looking at these goals, that's what we transform number 4 into. And we don't focus so much on recruitment this year, except for the blood, the stuff that Biomed's already doing that we can help support, and the pride drives. I think we focus more on this in reach and set a goal for some of these internal presentations for number 4.
Let's do it.
I just want to say, just if I could just jump back in real quick, I was thinking, I was going to type it, but I just feel like it's so important for our Red Crossers who are LGBTQ or identify, that they know, but I also think it's equally important for them to know how many allies there are around them. I think that's important also. And I don't know how we do that, but I'm just saying, I think that's really important.
There was a talk, I was a panel discussion from National. This was before I even knew the Western New York Pride Resource Group existed. And I forget the person's name, but she was talking about how reassuring it was to be able to talk about her wife, because in other places she would just be apprehensive about should I bring up that I have a wife? Should I say my part? Like, and she said, it's just nice to be in an environment where I can talk about my wife and it's just normal and I can talk about what we're doing and not worry about being judged. And I think that like that resonated with me. And I think that speaks to your point that like people can have a safe place to just be normal, just talk about their life and not be worried about being judged or not having to censor themselves, which it's heartbreaking that that's the experience. And it really resonated with me that she was able to speak about feeling safe in the Red Cross community, being able to just express who she was and talk about her family the way she wanted to and not have to censor that. And that was really reassuring. That made me feel good about the Red Cross. So I'm sorry, I wanted to share that story because it made your comment about there being lots of allies made me think of that like the Red Cross being that kind of a place where everybody's story is not just accepted but celebrated. We want to hear about your life. We want to hear about your family. We want to hear about everything that's going on. We want to appreciate you for you.
So maybe rather than like formalizing internal goals the way we kind of did with our external goals, maybe we continue to talk about what we want to see in meetings and use our meeting times. One thing Nicole and I had kind of talked about is what do we want the meetings to be? So far, it's been a lot of just like talking about things that we've done and kind of like getting some feedback and having some discussions around that, but that doesn't have to be the tone of the meetings going forward. So maybe our internal support can come through in the topics that we share for meetings and sharing those more broadly to the Western New York, all the chapters of the Red Cross and providing that support. And then so many of our employees, I mean, all of our collections staff are not going to be available at 11 on a Friday. They're out and about. So finding ways that we can support those people with things that they can maybe engage with on their own time or things like that. But I am getting the sense we're approaching noon and I don't know what people's thoughts are. I don't want to like belabor any points too much, but I wonder if maybe we should have a second meeting where Nicole and I can present the things that we have formalized and then things that we still need to talk about regarding the strategic plan and meeting ideas going forward and all that stuff. We can talk about that maybe next month. Unless anybody maybe wants to meet again in the meantime to maybe help Nicole and I formalize any of these ideas and like reformat what we've already talked about.
Happy to help any way I can, Carrie.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like end the conversation. I didn't like, we can still talk. And also, if you're watching this recording or if you have ideas after the fact, please email Nicole or I. I know some people like me chat a lot and take up a lot of the airtime on our meetings. But if you have ideas that you weren't able to get out or that you didn't articulate during the course of this that occur to you later, or if you're watching this as a recording and if you have ideas, those are still valuable ideas, whether they come in writing or verbally. So.
We can always try having everybody bring one person to the meeting next time.
Everybody recruit one friend.
Yes.
Even if you have to bribe them.
I'll give you lunch. Come with me.
I wonder if we need to separate out, and maybe this echoes what you said, Carrie, but I wonder if we need to separate out like the meetings where we do the work like this, and then the meetings where we provide tools and resources. Like if there's because I can see where there are people who want to be involved and want to know what's going on and want to receive tools and resources and want to be able to share, but don't necessarily have the time or the bandwidth to help us do the work. And so maybe we need to be able to provide a space for both. So maybe those of us doing the work is a smaller group, but it allows us to focus, and then we're having like meetings dedicated to sharing resources and engaging with people and giving them something that they can walk away with that's useful and helpful and provoking. Well, is there any, I guess this was extremely helpful and productive, and thank you all so much. Is there anything else that anyone wants to say or suggest before we wrap up? And like Carrie said, those late coming ideas that we often have are, we want them, so please send them. All right, so I guess our next steps, Carrie, is we'll work together, and Lynn and Joanne, maybe you can help us. We'll work together to like restructure this based on the things we agreed upon and then the things that we've realized we need more work on, so that we can share a revised plan that's more pared down and structured and smart.
Yeah, and anybody else who wants to like jump in on that, just let us know and we'll invite you to whatever meeting time we set. I also want to share there's a National Pride Resource Group call coming up. They do their meetings quarterly, and that's coming up on August 26th at 4:30. So I can share that in the kind of email review. Probably what I'll do is either today or tomorrow I'll share this recording and just kind of encourage people to send their ideas. And then when we find when we kind of do redraft this, we can send that out to everybody as well with just sort of the updated version.
Thanks.
Cool.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.